Over 2 million people in the UK could be forced to leave their homes by the end of 2026. Shocking? It's not a wild prediction. It's what experts are warning as new housing laws begin to tighten across the country. From stricter energy rules to brutal tax changes, the government is rolling out reforms that will shake the very foundation of who can afford to live where. If you're a tenant, your rent could skyrocket. If you're a landlord, you might be fined or even pushed to sell. And if you're a first-time buyer dreaming of owning a home, those dreams might just get harder to reach. These changes aren't far-off ideas. They are already approved or in motion, and most people have no idea what's coming. So, what exactly is changing? And why are so many being pushed out? Stick around, because you need to hear all 10 rules before it's too late. Number 1. Stricter EPC rules for rentals. From 2026, every rental property in the UK will be required to have an Energy Performance Certificate, EPC, rating of C or above. That's a big shift from the current minimum of E, which many landlords have relied on for years. On paper, this move is part of the government's broader push toward energy efficiency and reducing carbon emissions. But in practice, it's creating panic across the rental sector. Thousands of older homes, especially those built before the 1990s, won't meet the new standard without costly upgrades. What does this mean for landlords? It means spending £10,000 or more on insulation, double glazing, new boilers, and other eco-improvements, just to legally keep their properties on the market. Those who can't afford the upgrades, or simply don't want to deal with the hassle, are already deciding to sell up. And as more landlords exit the market, the number of available rentals is shrinking fast, driving up competition and prices for tenants. For renters, this is where the real impact hits. Fewer rental homes mean higher rents, bidding wars, and even relocation as people are priced out of their areas. It's already happening in cities like Birmingham and Bristol, where rental shortages are reaching critical levels. If you're currently renting a property with an EPC rating below C, your landlord might be making tough decisions behind the scenes right now. The clock is ticking, and this new rule could be the quiet force behind a massive housing shift across the UK. Number 2. Ban on no-fault evictions. The UK government is finally abolishing Section 21, also known as the no-fault eviction rule. This means that landlords will no longer be able to evict tenants without giving a specific legal reason. While this might sound like a huge win for renters, and in many ways, it's also creating a wave of uncertainty and tension across the rental market. For decades, Section 21 allowed landlords to regain possession of their property with just 2 months' notice, no explanation needed. But from 2026, that door closes. Landlords are already expressing concerns. Without the flexibility to remove tenants quickly, many feel they'll be trapped in difficult situations. For example, if tenants stop paying rent or cause property damage. The eviction process will now require formal court proceedings, which can be slow, expensive, and heavily stacked in favor of tenants. As a result, some landlords are planning to sell off their rental properties entirely before the new rule kicks in, which again reduces supply in an already overheated rental market. For tenants, this might seem like a layer of protection, and in many cases, it is. No one wants to live with the fear of being told to leave their home without cause. But here's the catch. Landlords may start raising rents, becoming more selective, or even avoiding long-term leases altogether. In areas like London and Manchester, tenants are already reporting tougher screening processes and higher upfront costs. In the end, while the intention of banning no-fault evictions is to create fairness, the unintended consequence may be fewer available homes and tougher competition for anyone trying to rent. If you're planning to move in 2026, prepare for a market that looks very different and a lot more competitive than it does today. Number 3. Tougher mortgage rules. From 2026, getting approved for a mortgage in the UK is about to become much harder, especially for first-time buyers and self-employed workers. Lenders are tightening their criteria, introducing stricter affordability checks, and demanding more documentation than ever before. These changes are partly in response to rising interest rates, inflation, and economic uncertainty. But the result is clear. Even those with decent incomes are struggling to get on the property ladder. What used to be a simple pre-approval process is turning into a long, complex hurdle course. For first-time buyers, this is a crushing blow. Many young people already face high rents, stagnant wages, and little savings. Now, banks are demanding larger deposits, clean credit histories, and proof of stable income over longer periods, which leaves out freelancers, gig workers, and anyone with a non-traditional career. Even professionals with good jobs are finding that small debts or inconsistent income patterns can lead to rejection. The dream of owning a home is slipping further away, especially in expensive areas like London, Brighton, or Cambridge. And for landlords, it's not much easier. Buy-to-let mortgages are also under pressure, with stricter stress tests and lower loan-to-value ratios. Some banks are even pulling out of the market entirely, spooked by new regulations and economic risks. This means fewer landlords will be able to expand their portfolios, and many may sell off existing properties instead. The knock-on effect: even fewer homes available for renters, and even more pressure on an already broken housing system. If you're hoping to buy in 2026, start preparing now. Build your credit, save more than you think you'll need, and be ready for a far more intense application process. Because soon, owning a home in the UK won't just be tough, it'll feel nearly impossible. Number 4. Rent controls in major cities. One of the most debated changes coming in 2026 is the introduction of rent control measures in several major UK cities. Places like London, Manchester, and Edinburgh are expected to implement strict rent caps to combat soaring housing costs. The idea is to prevent landlords from raising rents beyond inflation and to protect tenants from being priced out of their neighborhoods. On paper, it sounds like a lifeline for struggling renters, but the reality is more complicated and possibly more damaging in the long run. For landlords, rent controls can act as a financial straitjacket. Without the ability to adjust rent to match market conditions, many investors may see their profits squeezed, especially in areas where maintenance costs and taxes are rising. Some will choose to pull their properties from the rental market altogether, while others may cut back on property improvements to save money. Over time, this could lead to a drop in housing quality and a shrinking supply of rental homes in already high-demand areas. For tenants, it's a double-edged sword. Yes, your rent might become more stable, but finding a new rental could become significantly harder. With fewer landlords willing to rent under tighter rules, demand will rise, competition will intensify, and waiting lists could stretch for months. In cities where rent caps have already been trialed, like Berlin, similar policies led to widespread shortages and unintended consequences. If the UK follows the same path, we could see a rental system where security improves for the lucky few, while everyone else is left fighting for scraps. If you're a tenant in a major city, now's the time to think ahead, understand your rights, explore long-term lease options, and be prepared for a rental market that's about to change dramatically. Number 5. Mandatory licensing for all landlords. Every landlord in the UK will be legally required to obtain a rental license, regardless of how many properties they own or whether they are renting a single flat or a large portfolio. Until now, licensing has mostly applied to houses in multiple occupation HMOs, or properties in designated selective licensing zones. But under the new rules, this requirement becomes nationwide and non-negotiable, and the consequences for not complying are serious, with potential fines reaching into the tens of thousands. This move is being pushed as a way to raise housing standards and protect tenants from poor living conditions. The government says licensing will help councils track who is renting out homes, enforce safety standards, and hold negligent landlords accountable. But for many property owners, this adds yet another layer of bureaucracy and cost. The licensing process can be time-consuming and expensive, often involving inspections, paperwork, and renewal fees. For small-scale landlords, especially accidental ones, this could be the final straw, forcing them to sell up and exit the market altogether. For tenants, the changes offer some potential benefits, like better oversight and higher quality housing. But once again, there's a downside. As more landlords leave the market due to these new obligations, the supply of rental properties is likely to drop, which can lead to even higher rents and more competition. Some landlords may also pass the cost of licensing and compliance directly onto tenants through rent increases. So while the idea of safer, better managed homes is appealing, the reality may involve fewer choices, longer waiting times, and higher monthly costs. If you're renting or planning to, understanding how these licenses work and what they mean for your landlord could help you stay one step ahead in a rapidly shifting housing landscape. Before we dive into the next point, quick question for you. Which of these changes do you think will hit the hardest? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We read every single one. And hey, if you're finding this useful, hit that subscribe button. It's just one click, but it means the world to us and helps us keep making videos like this. Number 6. New taxes on build-to-rent properties. In 2026, a major shift in the UK's housing market will come through new tax rules that favor corporate landlords over individual property owners. Large build-to-rent developers, typically backed by banks, pension funds, or investment firms, will receive a range of tax incentives to expand their portfolios. At the same time, individual landlords will face tighter tax rules, including reduced mortgage relief, higher capital gains tax, and limits on allowable expenses. This growing divide is reshaping who controls the rental market and who gets pushed out. For private landlords, these changes could be devastating. The reduced financial benefits make owning and renting property far less profitable than before. With rising costs and fewer tax breaks, many small landlords are expected to sell their properties, unable to compete with large-scale corporate investors who benefit from economies of scale and new tax advantages. This will likely accelerate the consolidation of housing into the hands of big companies who can build and manage massive rental blocks across cities and towns. And what does this mean for tenants? While some might hope big companies will provide better managed, more professional housing, the reality is more complicated. Build-to-rent units often come with higher rents, strict rules, and less flexibility than privately owned homes. Tenants may also lose the human connection with smaller landlords who are more likely to be flexible on rent or terms. Instead, they'll deal with corporate systems, where everything from maintenance to complaints goes through automated portals. The bigger issue, as individuals are priced out of both owning and renting, the UK may be heading toward a housing market controlled by a handful of corporations, leaving ordinary people with fewer choices and less control over where and how they live. This isn't just a tax change. It's a power shift. Number 7. Fire and safety regulation overhaul. In the wake of the Grenfell Tower tragedy, the UK government is rolling out a sweeping overhaul of fire and building safety regulations, set to take full effect by 2026. While some measures have already been introduced, the new laws will go even further, expanding fire safety obligations to include low-rise flats, converted buildings, and even some older terraced homes. Landlords and property owners will be required to carry out more frequent risk assessments, install new safety systems like fire doors and alarms, and in some cases, completely renovate outdated structures to meet modern safety codes. For landlords, especially those owning older buildings, this could be extremely costly. Retrofitting a property to comply with the latest safety standards might involve tens of thousands of pounds in upgrades. From cladding removal to improved emergency exits, the pressure to modernize will be intense. And those who can't or won't comply risk fines, legal action, or even being banned from renting out their properties altogether. Some landlords, especially small-scale ones, may find the cost too high and choose to sell their properties rather than invest in major refurbishments. While these changes aim to protect lives, and rightly so, they also come with real-world consequences for the housing market. As more landlords exit due to high compliance costs, rental supply could shrink, especially in city centers where older housing stock is common. For tenants, that may mean higher rents and fewer choices, even as safety improves. The balance between protecting residents and maintaining a healthy rental market is delicate, and many fear the government may be moving too fast without offering financial support. If you're renting or planning to invest in property, understanding these new fire safety laws is not optional. It's essential to avoid getting caught in a legal and financial trap. Number 8. Green levies on older homes. Starting in 2026, Homeowners across the UK could face new environmental levies on older, energy-inefficient properties, particularly those built before 1980. These so-called green taxes are part of the government's broader climate strategy aimed at reducing carbon emissions from the residential sector, which currently accounts for nearly 15% of the UK's total emissions. Properties with poor insulation, outdated heating systems, and low EPC ratings could be hit with annual charges unless they are upgraded to meet modern energy standards. For owners of older homes, this creates a difficult choice. Invest heavily in retrofitting or pay ongoing penalties that could increase year after year. Upgrades like wall insulation, triple-glazed windows, or renewable heating systems aren't cheap. Costs can range from £5,000 to over £25,000, depending on the property. And for landlords, the pressure is doubled, as they may also need to comply with separate EPC requirements for renting. Many simply won't be able to afford it, pushing them towards selling or passing the costs on to tenants. Tenants may feel the effects too, as landlords begin to raise rents to cover renovation expenses or taxes. Alternatively, older homes, once affordable options, could become too costly to live in due to added levies and high energy bills. This could drive more people into modern developments or shared accommodation, reducing housing diversity and pushing lower-income renters into difficult situations. While the push for greener homes is essential for the planet, the rollout of these levies without substantial financial support risks creating a two-tier housing system, where only the wealthy can afford to live comfortably in sustainable homes. If you live in or rent an older property, now is the time to check your EPC rating and prepare for what these green levies could mean for your future. Number 9. Compulsory renovation loans. From 2026, the UK government is expected to roll out a controversial policy that will require mandatory green renovations on certain homes. But here's the twist. The funding will come in the form of compulsory renovation loans, tied not to the person, but to the property itself. These loans will be offered at low interest rates and used to fund energy efficiency improvements like insulation, heat pumps, or solar panels. But once taken, the debt will stay with the property, even when it's sold. That means new buyers could inherit a loan they never took out, adding a whole new layer of risk to buying older homes. For homeowners, especially those looking to sell, this could be a major setback. If a property carries one of these attached debts, it may become harder to sell or fetch a lower price as buyers become cautious about taking on long-term financial obligations they didn't sign up for. In some cases, sellers may be forced to pay off the balance just to close the deal, eating into their equity and profits. And if you're a landlord, these renovation loans will add yet another cost pressure, potentially forcing you to reconsider your entire investment strategy. For buyers and renters alike, the consequences could be far-reaching. If more homes come with attached debt, the property market could begin to shift, with older homes losing their appeal and modern builds becoming even more expensive. Meanwhile, renters could see prices rise, as landlords pass on the cost of repayment through higher monthly rents. While the goal of cutting carbon emissions is important, these compulsory loans could fundamentally change how we buy, sell, and value homes in the UK. If you're thinking about moving or investing in property, understanding this rule is absolutely critical. Number 10. Penalties for empty properties. The UK government will begin enforcing strict penalties on vacant residential properties, targeting homes that have been left empty for more than 6 months. Under the new rules, local councils will have greater powers to issue heavy fines, double or even triple council tax rates, and in extreme cases, pursue compulsory purchase orders to reclaim empty homes for public housing. The aim is to tackle the growing housing shortage by forcing property owners to either rent out or sell idle homes, particularly in high-demand areas. While this might seem like a step in the right direction, especially in cities where homelessness is rising and available housing is scarce, the policy could have serious implications for investors, second homeowners, and landlords. Many property owners who keep homes empty for occasional use, whether for holidays, business travel, or as long-term investments, will now face significant financial pressure. As a result, we may see a mass exodus of private investors from the housing market, especially in tourist-heavy regions like Cornwall, Devon, and parts of London. For renters and buyers, This policy could create both opportunities and problems. On one hand, it may help bring more homes back into circulation, increasing supply in areas where housing is desperately needed. But on the other hand, these reclaimed homes may be sold rather than rented, doing little to ease rental demand. Additionally, landlords may raise rents on other properties to offset new taxes and penalties. In the long run, while the crackdown on empty homes is meant to free up living space, it could also destabilize investor confidence, reduce housing flexibility, and reshape entire neighborhoods. If you own or are looking to buy a second home, it's crucial to factor in these penalties before 2026 hits. As we've just seen, the housing landscape in the UK is heading for one of its most dramatic shifts in decades. These 10 new rules aren't just policy updates. They are powerful forces that will reshape how we live, rent, buy, and invest. Whether you're a tenant, homeowner, first-time buyer, or landlord, the impact will be felt directly in your pocket and in your long-term housing security. And the most alarming part, most people still have no idea these changes are coming. What makes this even more critical is that many of these policies are designed with good intentions, energy efficiency, tenant protection, safer homes, but without enough support or transition plans, they could unintentionally push millions into housing insecurity. Landlords may be forced out. Renters could be priced out. Buyers may be locked out. And the rise of corporate ownership and shrinking rental supply may leave regular people with fewer and fewer options. The time to act is now. Whether it's reviewing your property's EPC rating, speaking to a financial advisor about mortgage options, or simply planning for future rent increases, getting ahead of these changes could save you stress and money. Staying informed is your first defense, and that's exactly why we create content like this, to give you the edge before the headlines hit. If any of these rules shocked you or hit close to home, drop a comment and tell us which one worries you most. Your experience might help someone else too. And if you found this video helpful, please support our channel. We put a huge amount of time and research into every upload, and your one click to subscribe means everything. It helps us grow, stay independent, and keep bringing you the facts that others don't talk about.